living for a living, baby. How you doing?
Let's rock. Let's rock. But
Good.
shit, everything good on your end? How's life in pandemic world in the U.S. and Seattle area?
It was different. It was a big time adjustment, especially because we had a lot of riots. So they really shut everything down around here, and it was tough. I mean, you're in the middle of the summer and things were shut down, and you were having to find ways to keep yourself busy and mentally in check. And I don't think for me, like the beginning is it wasn't hard
Yeah.
to really stay like keep my but now I'm finding myself struggling with certain things, and just in terms of like you feel like the walls are caving in, and like you take more breaks than you do, than you're actually working on something or keeping yourself busy, and you're like, man, I need to be out. I need to see some different stuff, because if I go back to what I was doing, I'm going to feel like a robot, and my brain's going to explode.
Yeah. No, where are you living? What area are you living right
So I
now?
live in I live in Seward Park.
Okay.
Mhm.
And so, I mean, how close to the riots and everything were you?
Well, I mean, I think I live about 12 minutes from Capitol Hill, depending on
Okay.
traffic. I live about 15 minutes from downtown, no traffic. Maybe even 10 to 12, just depends. But so it was like you can't get caught on the freeway. If you're caught on the freeway, they're just gonna shut it down and you're gonna be stuck. But it was a little bit of an adjustment just because it was something you saw in the news every single night, and mentally, it was tough. It was like, what is going on right now? Like, there was no real answer.
Yeah, exactly. And no, I mean, I've only been seeing it from afar, and it's just like people are asking me like, what is going on over there? And I was like, I don't really know. Like, I was just when I heard, my mom stays out in Issaquah, and when I heard like some people were like starting to, it was like slowly trickling into like Bellevue and like
Yeah.
Issaquah. I'm like, what is I saw some like Twitter video of like people going in the cigar shop on Bellevue Way and like the owner coming out with a shotgun. I was like, holy smokes, we are in like some, it feels like we're living in a movie at times.
Absolutely. It's a little different, man, just because I mean, our age group, I don't think we've ever experienced anything to this degree or this magnitude. So a lot of people are kind of in shock and not sure how to handle it truly. It's a bit of an adjustment. You gotta find ways to keep your mind sane, I guess you can say, because not being able to go to work every day and not being able to go get out of the house or go do those routine things that keep you you keep your physical and mental health sharp. It's different, man, and you just got to get used to uh, being in tune with yourself, I guess you can say, and making sure you're
Yeah.
listening to yourself a lot more.
No, for sure. I mean, I've just noticed it I've done two lockdowns now, like one in, first wave in
Yep.
Barcelona, then the second wave was in Czech Republic. And now I'm out in Finland now where like life is like people are still like pretty masked up at the stores, but it's not required. And like no one like gives you an evil eye if you don't,
Yeah.
like so the gym's open, like for the
Mhm.
most part compared to what I was doing, it's pretty normal.
Yep.
Um, but I just noticed myself from those like 2 months with all the free time I had, I'm on my phone so much, and I, really have been trying to not be on my phone as much, but just I get into that rhythm of like bullshitting basically. And like, and I catch myself and I'll look up at the clock and I'm like, yo, 30 minutes has passed, and like I haven't accomplished one thing, and so it's it's like I'm scared in a way for like production, like
Yeah.
on a big level, just knowing it,
Yeah.
how it's affected me. And I mean,
Hmm.
have you gotten into any new like hobby? Like, how are you keeping sane? What's been like your go-to thing?
Man, I think I get into watching film a lot more.
Mm,
I try to really break it down from like the inside out and understand, what's who's and where's and why's. I try to work out, whether if I'm just running at the park or lifting weights at the house. things that kind of help me, keep myself busy and in shape physically and mentally, like give me a little direction, give me understand, what purpose, and that's something new for me just because, like coaching wise, I've wanted to be a coach. I'm just trying to figure out and find my way and what I really like and what I'm really into.
What's the schedule like? You said you're OC at Kentwood, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna try to be an OC. It's a different.
Man, that's sick. Like, what's the schedule like? When are you guys supposed to play?
Yeah, so we've been pushed back multiple times, moved the season to the spring.
Okay.
Thinking hopefully in sometime in March we get an opportunity to go out there, but you never really know. Hopefully the WIA gives kids opportunity, but they got to do what's safe and do what's best for them. So I'm just trying to figure it out and move it, take it one day at a time.
Dude, I know I feel bad for the seniors and everything because, like,
Mhm.
for me, shit, high school, I didn't really play much my junior year because I was like in trouble. But then senior year was like my year. And so I'm just like imagining myself as one of those guys right now in Washington, like preparing for the year. And it's like
Yep.
you just keep getting it pushed back and pushed back. And I just feel bad for those kids, man, because that's like, I mean, you probably feel the same way. Like high school
Yeah.
ball senior year is like such a like
Something.
monumental,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
like it's so cliche, but like even now, graduating 09, 10, 11, 12 years later, like I still think back to that year, that one year is like,
Yeah.
man, that was the time.
Yeah. I think it's a culmination of your 3 years. Friends have gone, friends have left. You've made new friends. You guys get closer, and you start to mentally and physically mature from the time you're 14, 15 years old to the time you're 17, 18, and now you can retain a lot more as a football player, and you're physically able to do some of the stuff that you couldn't do as a freshman, or coming in couldn't do the year prior. And now you want to put yourself to the test. I know that was a big thing for me is, all right, now I've acquired and developed a lot of these skills and athleticism. Now how can I go display it? That was my big thing. I think my senior year, like I knew I could play. That
Right.
wasn't my issue. I just knew, hey, can I put it all together, make it happen? And a lot of the kids are frustrated because they don't even have that opportunity. And like you said, there's guys that blossom as seniors.
Yeah.
It's a part of the game. You look towards these guys for this leadership, and it's fight or flight, and some of them really excel at it. And it's frustrating, and I know these kids and even some of the coaches are frustrated, but at the end of the day, the decision was made, and it's based around health and safety. And we can't really argue with some of the things because there's a lot of unknown factors. And I'm all for keeping the kids safe, and they are the priority. They are the future. So for us, and I just want to reiterate, like taking the time to wear your mask and do some of the things that these people are asking, because you don't know what can happen. You know what I'm saying? And people have no symptoms. Some people have a ton of symptoms. Some people's lives have changed because of the virus. And simply, you got to make sure that you're taking the steps to be safe.
Yeah, for sure. No, I mean, I have kind of my own little beliefs and sometimes disbeliefs with what's going on, but at the end of the day, like it's like let's whatever does need to be done to move it forward. That's
Yep.
what I'm really all for.
Yeah,
Whatever
absolutely.
that really is, and you can have the personal belief of one end of the spectrum. It's
Yep.
like, but let's move forward. So
Yeah.
for everybody, for the kids, for what everything's happening, and how's your like now that you're the coach, like what's like your coaching style, like how's that been, because that's an
Um,
evolution in itself too.
yes. I think for me, like I played at a high level. I've been coached by good guys who know what they're doing. And at the same time, like there is that volume meter that you got to turn up.
Mm,
I want to make sure that when I turn my volume meter up and I need to bark something out to these kids, that I do it with a gracious and somewhat of a servant type attitude, because not a lot of these kids understand the game. And then if you don't understand like what their home life is like, so yelling at them isn't really always the answer.
Right.
What I've learned, and some of these kids get numb to it, and it takes a special individual to understand something and get yelled at in a high volume and respond to it correctly. I don't think that happens, like very rarely. And they call it hard coaching. And like I got coached, by hard coaches, but I like that because I was able to respond to it, and I was able to create a version of competitiveness within me. And really, as a coach, you just want to inspire, and whatever you got to do to get these kids to be competitive in life, that's what you want to do. And I want to just hopefully teach the game of life and use football as a vehicle. It's tough because there is no football right now, but at the same time, when this thing gets going, I got to prepare these guys for college. And that's, I think it's a responsibility for high school coaches. If you don't prepare these kids for college, you're doing them a disservice. And that's just preparing them for the next phase of life and the next phase of football. I think that is something I will aim to do.
Completely. What kind of you running? What strategy wise? What are you guys doing?
I'm a big play action guy. Like I love play actions. I love the element of getting under center and giving play actions. I love the element
lost art right now.
Lost art. Guys, they've adapted so much to being spread, and no one put any thought into the run game. And after spending a couple of years at Central Washington, I understand how important the run game is, and being able to control the tempo and control the clock, and getting athletes in space, and just be able to create one-on-one matchups. So, obviously teams are going to have their schemes that are built to stop you, but can I create a one-on-one matchup and allow this kid to do his stuff in this space? That's kind of what I'm going to try and make sure that I cater to.
Yeah, no, and nowadays it's almost, before run and spread was like the weird one because it was hard to prepare against because not everybody was doing it.
Yeah.
And so it was like you didn't have the 4 wide receivers in practice to even really go against. And now it's the total flip where like if you can run 21 personnel, not a lot of teams can mimic that in practice.
Yeah.
And especially out here in Europe, like everyone is spread for the most part. And so if you can line up with like 2 tight ends or a fullback, like
it's a different animal.
The team might be able to run it in scout the week before, but not well. It's with some like little dude at fullback or a little guy at tight end. And so, I think, it's all about cycles, and that's where we're headed, with the game.
Trends and guys that have their niches. And that's what was pretty cool about, like, obviously I played at a high level, and I got to see the Andy Reeds. I got to see the Josh McDaniels. I got to see some of the Bill Lazor stuff that, is very good in developing and defining. And, with that, you see some of the spread stuff that's run in college. And I just want to kind of culminate a lot of that and put it together and make it simple for the kids. High school, I feel like, should be a little bit of a challenge, though, just because you got to see what these kids can retain, and you got to see what these kids can handle, because if you don't, you're not really going to find out what their talents are. So I want to be able to see, like, hey, can you take this stretch concept and read this end and throw an RPO? Like, is that something you can functionally do? We find out, what I'm saying, whether they can or not. But I really want to be able to build a good concepts. Keep it simple. I want to be in 11. I want to be in 12, and I want to be in, 21, even 20 sometimes. But teams don't know how to fit tight ends. Teams don't know how to fit fullbacks nowadays. So create that mismatch and hopefully win in the pass game, play action pass game.
Yeah. Growing up, like what when you were in high school, what were you guys running? I mean, I know at Wazoo, you guys were pretty spread at the time. I mean, and that's the
Yeah.
receiver's dream, but
We,
how has that evolved with like your playing time, you know? Like I want to get into the pro stuff too, but what were you in high school?
So high school, I went to Rogers, and they ran more of a two-back system,
Mhm.
just dive and a lot of smash mouth type stuff, and get the ball to your guys on the edge a little bit, not a ton. I'm like, so in high school, like I think I probably touched the ball maybe 3 times a game.
Yeah.
And you think about like, hey man, I got a kid who's athletic, he can play, and he only touches the ball 3 times a game. Well, it was just kind of a part of what we did, and it was never a big deal to me because I wanted to win. So I was willing to do whatever it took to win. Like, hey, I got to go block, or hey, I got to go run a post. Like, hey, sure, whatever. And I think football has evolved since then as well. So
Yeah, and did you like what all options you had out of high school? How, because I mean that kind of affects it, and like that
big
makes
time.
it tough mentally. I know, especially nowadays,
Mhm.
back what 10, 12 years ago, high school for us, like there wasn't Instagram, and so like you couldn't see what everybody was doing, and so you could be a little bit more like in the team per se. But nowadays it's like, damn, okay, well that guy over on the cross town, he's getting 10
Yeah,
targets a game, and now the
yeah.
stats are all out there. So I mean, like, how was that in your mind, and then do you feel like it affected your recruiting?
I mean, I moved at the start of seventh, eighth grade. So I moved from Seattle to Puyallup, and being just a football player, I wanted to play. I didn't really care where I played at. Junior high, I played running back all growing up. So
Okay.
my development was more so what can he do with the ball in his hands, and then you know guys get bigger, and I grew, but I was a string bean. So I was I can run, I can catch, I can play football. So I think wide receiver kind of fits me, and I had the ability to go catch the ball with a good catch radius, and I think that's kind of what changes that position. I didn't know what I was going to play in college because I played
Ah,
defense, I played offense, I was a returner. I just like get this guy in space and let this guy be him. I think that was a part of my game. So I wanted to go to Oregon at first. I wanted to go to Cal at first. I really liked Nebraska and UW as well. So as a kid growing up, you like the University of Miami, but
of course.
that's a different level of competition in football down there, and it's obviously super far from home. But Washington State kind of just fit me in, and they were gutsy. They spread it around a lot, and I was like, well, if these guys, if they're throwing it 36 to 38 times a game, I'm just doing numbers in my head as a kid. I'm not the smartest kid in the world, but I know a little bit about a little bit. And I'm like, if this guy gets 6, there's still a lot more out there from yards. Say we throw it to the back 4 times. Say we throw it to a tight end 3 times. Still 15 other catches that I
Yeah.
can get. And they were trending, I would say, on the upwards trend. They had just beat Texas in the Holiday Bowl.
Ah,
Um,
yeah.
I went to camp there in the summer, and I felt more of a connection with the town, being able that it was small. Like I grew up in the south end of Seattle, and then moved to Puyallup, so I'd always kind of been in bigger cities, and so I liked and enjoyed that college atmosphere of there's nothing out here, I can focus, because I know myself and I need a one avenue alley to focus. Um, and I playing the Pac-10 is a dream. As a kid living on the West Coast, this is what you see. You see the UCLA's, you see the Apple Cups, you see the Arizona States, and they're typically good teams that you want to play against.
Yeah, no, that's the thing about that like college town atmosphere. I was at University of North Dakota for 1 year, and it ended up not working out from just the fit and kind of vibe and every that kind of thing. But looking back now, I'm like, I kind of hated on it at the time. I mean, it was cold as fuck. Like it was a, it was rough, but at the same time, like it looking back now, I'm like, damn, it would have been really cool if that would have worked out because, there's one street with all the bars on it. Like everybody kind of knows, even though it's a fairly big school, 15, 20,000, I think, like everyone kind of knows everybody. You know, it's like, or maybe that's wrong on the numbers. I haven't thought about that in a while, but
Even if it's not, it's a small, like a smaller scale.
yeah, and you know, but like that atmosphere is cool. And then I ended up going to University of New Haven, where it was like a private small school, but we're in New Haven with, it's a city, you know, and so like there's 3-4 other colleges around, there's other stuff happening, and it's like it's completely different vibe. So no, that college atmosphere, I wish I could have really like appreciated it at the time. And I've only been to Pullman like once or twice, maybe twice, I think. And boy, man, Pullman's a fun place to be, you know, like.
And you know what I'm saying? It's a college atmosphere. There's nothing to do, so you really hang out with your friends all day long. Obviously there's the parties and whatever you're really into, but it gives you a different element of life and something that I think I needed. And so it simple, was quiet. I was really a homebody kid to some degree. Like I like to play video games and chill at home and watch football, like play basketball. Those are like the things I was into. So I didn't need to go to this city to see this bar. No, I'm not even I didn't turn 21 until I was a senior, started my senior year. So I wasn't able to do anything like some of the older kids were. So my college experience was built on being in house parties and being home. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And you played on the hoop. You played on the hoop team there for a year or so. I thought I read something like that, right? How'd that come out?
So when I signed, I've always played multiple sports growing up. I played baseball, I ran track, basketball, football. I knew I had always wanted to give myself a shot to play basketball because I thought I could play. And, you know, a conversation with my mom, like she was like, if you still want to play, like just let these guys know. And, you know, that communication piece can go a long ways. And so we told them, you know, on an in-home visit, like, hey, if I get an opportunity to play, like, I think I can, you know, go make the team. And, you know, just being an athlete and being around those guys, like I felt like I could play. It was a bit of a different circumstance because we weren't winning at the time. And we had to go through some changes, some culture changes.
In football, you're saying?
Football.
Yeah.
No, I'm talking about basketball. I'm talking about basketball.
Okay.
Football, we knew who we were. We couldn't win close games.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I was gonna say that year or those years, it was always like, damn, again.
I mean, we started out 3-0. I think my freshman year we started out 3-0. We had a 1,000-yard receiver, 2,000-yard back. Alex Spring threw for a bazillion yards, and we lost like 6 games in a row by like a only team that really blew us out was USC in 2005.
Okay.
And they were a bit different because of the Reggie Bush factor, the Matt Leinart and Steve Smith and all those high level athletes.
Like 11 NFL guys on the one roster.
I mean, both sides of the ball carried pros, multiple, more than 7. And that at the college level is you don't see that.
No.
You don't see that, especially and then they just kept doing it over and over and over again. And so that was tough. But it was a good experience for me just to be around basketball because I still love the game to this day. Like I still want to hoop. Like
I know I see you at the pro-am or what was I filming at that one time? And I look on the court, I was like, yo, BG's out here.
I mean, I can hoop. I can go, you know, I grew up playing in a good age group of basketball at the current time in 2005 where, you know, the Marcus Williams and John Brockmans and Martell. Like, our state was known for having a bunch of basketball talent. So I grew up in that era and played. And, you know, it just, for me, it was being able to stay close to the game, stay busy, and just getting a new experience too. I got coached by Dick Bennett and Tony Bennett. Those guys were big time.
Sick.
Yep. So, you know, really, like I said, I understand hard coaching. Like Dick Bennett he demands a lot out of his players. Great human being, put his arm around you, care about you, love you up. But he's gonna challenge you and see what you're made of, and that's why I really want to thrive, like you as a football player, even as a competitor in life, you need to be challenged. You need to understand how to respond to challenges, and you need to be able to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And that's something I've learned, I think, over the years.
Yeah, no, and that's a thing I feel like I'm noticing now more so, that it's just becoming a little more common that, like, man, those challenges and like bad, whether you want to call them bad practices or tough practices, whatever, however, is like they're looked at like negatively in a way now. And I feel like kids, to some degree, I've experienced, and maybe it's more out here in Europe, but like the at times will like shy away from the challenge, and it's because of maybe fear of failure. I'm not exactly sure, it's multiple different things, but like growing up for us, it was like I can remember my high school coach was a hard coacher, to say the least. Like after going through high school with him, there was nothing anybody could ever say to me or yell at me that would ever be worse than what he was doing. So it like I didn't like it at the time, but now I'm like, you literally can't say anything to me that is gonna get under my skin, because old Chris Bennett, I would screw up on a read, or he would think I screw up on a read, and I could hear it before I even looked to the sideline that I had screwed up, and so what are sticking on basketball, because I'm just curious with the two-sport athlete thing, because like, bro, that's crazy. Like, it was 1 year or 2 year, what was the
It was really hard, like being a 18-year-old kid on a college campus playing two sports, trying to hold education, try to get my education and hold a social life is virtually impossible. So that's why you won't see a ton of kids doing it. My morning started at 5. I had lift with the football team. There was the football coaches were like, no, you're going to lift. So I'm doing winter conditioning and lifting for the most part with the football team, going straight to class. After that, I might be able to go get a quick lunch. Then I have basketball practice at 1.
Damn. So you're in season basketball, but still off season football.
Yeah. So my experience is a lot different. I think now some of the kids that do it, they don't require them to do some of the winter lifting. But I was a scholarship football athlete, so I understood my commitment, and my commitment to the football team. And so I wasn't, me. It's a challenge. Cool. Let me show you what I can do. And I was able to, maintain decent grades, and it became way harder on my body than it did my mind.
Okay.
It wasn't that my mind couldn't do it and I couldn't stick though. Like those hours were fine, but it was getting home at 9 p.m. after the tutor, and I would sit there and I would say, I don't have the physical and mental strength to open this book up and be a student right now, because I'm so tired, as to where like I would be done from, I don't have that 1 to 4 time.
Right.
Where basketball practice is, I can do a set of homework, or I can go take a nap, or go function, or go take my mind off of something. And I didn't have that for a year, and it was very hard for me. So I had to understand how to balance football, basketball, school, and my social life, and it was too much.
Yeah, but shit, that's like quite the intro to college. And I mean, I
Time
can't,
management.
and not even like you said, the 1 to 4 time of like, not even just it being time for you, but it being like Division I basketball practice with a tough coach and running, mental, physical, like it's not even just no time. It's like an extreme physical, mental exertion that you got to put through that,
It was a high level. And at the time, the demand in the Pac-10 was that you had pro level elite guards, functional bigs, and you guys ran like you were getting up and down in the Pac-10. That was kind of the flow of the style of the Pac-10 at that time, in Arizona's and USC's, and
right.
and watching James Harden at Arizona State, and then UW had multiple pros. And so it was like these coaches are preparing to play hard, like in hard games. So like you were going to get that type of competitiveness from them.
Yeah, I got lucky in my senior year at New Haven. After football ended, I got to be on the baseball team. But
Yeah.
so like, I get to claim to fame as a two-sport college athlete, but it wasn't, football was done. And
Yeah.
so, I used to always see the baseball coach in the weight room throughout my couple years there, and I'd always tell him, "Hey, coach, if you need a defensive-minded shortstop who can hit, a $180, like I'm your guy, like I
Yeah.
love playing in the field." And he'd
Yeah.
always, "Okay, Bradley, yeah, yeah, yeah." And then I was just in the weight room lifting because, as like once you end playing, like
Mm-hmm.
you just have, especially in college with class and everything, you just have so much time on your hands that it
Man.
becomes like, what the hell do I do now? So I'd be in the weight room lifting, and baseball was in there one time, and coach came up, he's like, "Bradley, you said you played shortstop?" And I was like, holy shit, he sounds kind of serious right now. I was like, "Yeah, I do." He's like, "When's the last time you played?" I was like, like 4 or 5 years ago. I think it was like 6 or 7. And somehow kind of like tricked my way onto the team. I didn't really play much. I think I had like 4, 5, 6 at bats, or 4 at bats, couple innings in the field.
Yeah.
But it was just fun to be one of the guys at that point.
Yeah.
So when I read the thing on you playing hoops, I was like, damn, like that.
Mhm.
But it completely opposite, where I was just in baseball at that time.
I wouldn't even tell a kid to do it because of the demand like that it requires. Like I'm going like after if football practice ends early, I'm gonna go watch the 7-on-7 just because of I want to be involved and that's my commitment. So it would be like there'd be days where I leave my dorm at 5:15. I wouldn't get home until 9:30. You know what I'm saying? And as an 18-year-old kid, it's not physically and mentally healthy.
No, especially in the new surroundings and all
Oh
that
man.
stuff. And no, that's tough. And
Hmm.
what when you were at who were the coaches for football though when you were at Wazoo?
I was at Washington State. We had Bill Doba for 3 years and Paul Wolf for a year, my senior year.
Okay. And what were the differences with them? Like how was the coaching change?
Um, Coach Doba he's your grandpa. Like
Okay.
think of him in that sense. Like Coach Dobes is a fantastic human being. Cares about you as a person over your football ability. He will communicate with you. He's he has that feel of like hey Gramps, what's going on? Hey Grandpa, what's going on? Loves the game of football. Wants to see you guys excel and wants you guys do well in life. Um, I didn't get a ton of time with Paul Wolf, but just the time that it was a rough change. We
Mm-hmm.
weren't good. And I think everyone's mental and physical, mentally, I think people were just not in the correct place. And I mean, like I can say that for myself. Like that was a tough year. We lost a ton of games, and I was like, "What is going on?" Like,
Yeah, I just remember, like you say it now, I just remember there being a lot of drama around
right.
that season or that stat. I don't know details but I just can remember like it feeling
Yeah.
tough.
I put it like this: we at one point had a campus-wide tryout for a quarterback.
That's right. My Issaquah guy was in the running. That's right. Yeah, Mark Gray.
Yeah, and when you see, like so now it's national news, and you're like, man, we're coming off 3 competitive years in the pack. My sophomore year, we won 6 games. My junior year, I think we won 4 or 5. But we're playing in a really tough conference,
Yeah.
and we get to my senior year, and we struggle almost every single game, and I'm like, what is going on? And I didn't want to blame anyone. I just knew that it was a different set of coaches, new set of kids, and there's going to be a rough area in time, and no one prepared you for that. No one's going to say, hey, This year is going to be mentally and physically draining on you, and you're not going to win as many games as you're used to, or even be competitive in that sense. And I had no clue how to handle that. It was so new for me because I was never necessarily, I shouldn't say never, I was never a vocal leader in that sense.
Okay.
But junior, senior year, I kind of started to, you speak up, and I was always taught like, hey, play hard and guys will follow you. And, and if you're made up of the stuff of quality, that time you will rise in that occasion. And I was just thrown off. I just couldn't believe some of the stuff that we were, dealing with and going through. It was a new experience for me, and I had to, I was humbled.
Yeah, and just so much shit would probably be going on in your mind as like, you're a NFL guy, or NFL hopeful. That's looming in your mind like, okay, we're having a bad season. Is that going to translate to that? The combination of just losing games is terrible. Like no matter, I've said it before. It's like I've never lost a game, no matter how much fun the team is, but I've never lost a game and thought, yeah, let's do that again. Like that ever, like that is the worst. And when your life literally rides on it, then you're in the national news, almost like kind of being made a joke in a way, like of, now that I remember that. And man, that's like, did you have the idea in your mind at the time, like, yo, this might be fucking me up for the league? Like, or how was that like what was your mind going into senior year with going towards the league, and how'd you view that?
So just getting an understanding of what pros want to see. And the more they see you, the more they have to evaluate, like they'll evaluate you more. And so coming back
from bad tape you got.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And so now they're going to see a lot more than just those first 3 years, especially when the season isn't going as good. And so like I would try to physically and mentally like, hey, you got to play your ass off this week. Make sure that you're playing for something, you're playing for yourself as well. As crazy as it sounds, like you have a sense of pride in that when you're getting your ass kicked, like, hey, when you press play,
Yeah.
I'm going to be out here fighting my ass off. Like this is how I function. And it got hard. It got extremely, we were getting our ass kicked 69-0 one time by USC. And I'm like, this is what we talked about. USC had 22 players, probably more, who were pros.
Yeah.
Versus a team with maybe one or two pros. And you don't go into the game thinking you don't stand a chance, but then eventually when these dudes are whooping your ass in the third quarter and you're like, all right, I got to lock in and just keep playing for myself at this point, like play for a sense of pride. And that it got so hard. Like, I don't know how to explain it. And I think the biggest, like I said, it was a learning, humble experience. I think the biggest takeaway is work on your craft.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so that was my biggest deal was I'm going to play against a bunch of these dudes and I might play against some of them at the next level, but go ahead and work on your craft.
Yeah, for sure. And like, did you, that was kind of the main, I was going to add, you kind of answer. I was going to say like, you had kind of either a motto or something in your mind was just play for yourself, work on the craft. And it's nice too, for you to know, like, I'm going to see this dude again, probably.
Right.
Hopefully.
You always take that into account. Like, all right, like, this is what I need to get better at. This is what I need to do. And I was really in tune with just being a complete wide receiver. That was kind of my challenge from my coach. And it was a situation where I just was trying to get better and it was frustrating. I learned a lot, but football was my outlet, and that's where you go get that release of stress, or that's where you go celebrate with your teammates and just get a sense of meaning and purpose at the current time. And that bond that you had and all that work you put in, that was your release. So for me, I wouldn't trade it for the world because I learned a ton about myself. Not that I'm selfish, but I learned that when shit gets hard, you have to be able to block out a shit ton of variables and question marks and hone in on your craft. And that was something I think I learned.
Well, yeah, and it's never fun to do it at the time, but normally like those dark days or those dark months or those dark years for some people, like if you can keep that mindset right, like
Yeah.
it does eventually lead to, a bright sunrise or something like
Yeah.
that. And especially, it was nice for you to have, okay, I know when this last game ends, it's not
Yeah.
the last game. Like I still like we're you're
Man,
almost probably thankful that last game ends. We're on to the next chapter. And so
I got a
yeah.
I got a good story.
Okay,
So
let's hear it.
2000, my last year at Wazoo, 2008 Apple Cup. I was at the point now where I'm a pretty intelligent football player. Like I have a pretty decent understanding of how to play the game and what's required. So I had seen, high level football coming from my freshman year up to my senior year. And this was like the last Apple Cup. And it was such a bad game. I had a tough time celebrating it.
Damn.
And because I'm like, this was ugly football and I was a part of it. And I had no clue how to disengage my mind from shitty football and being excited about a win because
Right.
I don't want to play shitty football. That's not how my mind works. It's not how I grew up playing. It's not the level of skill that I see. You know what I'm saying? So when you watch a bad football game, you have an appreciation, and I couldn't appreciate the win. I was so mad. I think I might have dapped up like 2 or 3 dudes, and I was the first one in the locker room.
Damn. Yeah, and you like had the game-winning touchdown too. Did like
That was the year prior, but
Oh, that was your okay. Okay.
oh eight was the one where it was the bunch of field goals to win.
Okay.
And we ended up storming the field. They were 0 and whatever. That was a lot of my issue too. They didn't win a game that year.
That's right. Okay. Okay. I get them mixed up now. Okay. And that's tough. No, I'm the same way. Like we had my past season in Czech, we ended up winning a game against a team that like we should have just smacked, and it kind of like got close towards the end, and I'm, you're thankful for the win. Obviously winning is always better than losing, but then still like winning ugly and winning with some bad football, still you're like, come on, man, like this isn't what we're doing. This isn't what we should be doing. We're better than this.
We work harder and do more during the week, and you get to this game and we shit ourselves. Like
Yes.
I have a hard time celebrating that, and that's just the competitor in me. It's not that I'm disappointed. I mean, it's a version of disappointment, but it's not that I don't care, because I care tremendously. And like I go to sleep and that shit weighs on me, and I wake up the next day and I'm like, I got to be thankful we got to win. Like I put things in perspective eventually, and that most important thing is doing your 111th, helping the team win, and bringing the right positive attitude. And when we don't play good football, my attitude changes. And that's just a frustrating thing because I want to be a perfectionist.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. I'm the exact same way, where it can be annoying probably to other people around, but when you get a squad that's full of those kind of guys, then that's when it gets really special.
Absolutely. Just the demand in one another. And I probably didn't have that enough. And that's, probably something that I've learned over the years, that just because somebody demands something out of you doesn't mean that they're getting on your ass. This means that, hey, I see a lot in you, so I'm going to ask to bring that out.
Yeah, for sure. And then that game ends on a bittersweet, shitty, sour note. And then what's the, like, moving forward, like, take me through NFL, first combine training and all of that stuff. I was out in Orlando, like, 2000 last winter, or now 2 years ago winter, throwing and kind of training, working with the guys, getting ready for the combine out there. And so I kind of got to see that for a couple months. And just take me through your mindset with training and where you think you're going to go, and just draft, process and evaluation, all that kind of stuff.
So the year coming into the year, everyone kind of talked about me being a higher draft pick, and I got an opportunity to play in the Senior Bowl. I ended up getting injured, so I didn't play, but I went and I practiced for 2 days. Tough time for me just because I was going through a lot emotionally. I just lost my dad probably a month after my senior year. So like my mental and emotional side was a little to like football wasn't a priority for me at the current time. And I was, you lose a piece of you, and it was a tough time because that piece wanted to see me excel at this next level I was going to. And man,
I'm sorry to hear that. I didn't know any. I'm sorry. That's
it's all right. It was a weird time. And so everyone's hyped and excited for me to go to this next level, and I couldn't care less.
Right.
Because I'm missing a piece that wants me to, and so I had to think of like, what would my dad actually want me to do? And he would say, go strap your shit up and go play. And I carried it, and I didn't talk about it. But for a whole year, I was just year and a half. I was mentally miserable, like just trying to figure it. And I'm trying to patch up a piece of me that I had no real. I remember one time I was walking. I just got my. I had a tweaked hamstring during the Senior Bowl I talked about, and I had to fly back to Indianapolis to get an MRI again. And I remember walking through the Dallas airport, and I just walked into a closet and just broke down. I was like, this shit is so mentally draining. I got a ton of questions I need to ask. There's no one giving me answers. I don't know what's going to happen. I know I can play football. I don't know what level I can play at. Because I when you're coming from a situation that I was in, and everyone's saying, hey, this kid's this type of player, but then they mention you like, oh, well, maybe you'll go in the 6th round. I'm like, man, 6th round dudes don't even make it.
Yeah.
7th round dudes don't make it. And so I had to fight that mentally, and I understood that piece of the game. And I got there in terms of being mentally right. So it took me a while. So I finally worked out. And my pro day got pushed back. So now I'm really like, I had to have my own separate pro day.
Dang.
Because
for what reason?
I tweaked my hamstring at the Senior Bowl.
Okay.
It was bad, like to the point where I was like, I can't barely walk.
Yeah.
So it took me like 4.5 months to get right. So I'm running my 40 with no real training.
Oh my
God. Outside in the rain in 40-degree weather at Chief Sealth Stadium. So this is a crazy instance. There was a couple of factors I had that were unknown, and my path was a little different in that sense.
Damn, man. Yeah, I didn't know any of that. And I mean, that's I'm sure a dark time for sure. Like, what can you remember a day or a moment that was kind of like, okay, we're breaking through this darkness, and like, what's that how am I getting through it?
So after that, I think I had a pro day. I had my pro day, and there was a Seahawk workout. A couple of weeks, and they kind of do a regional workout, and big guys come in. And if you're on the fence, and I was like, man, I didn't really get an opportunity to really show my athletic ability and what I'm capable of. So I'm gonna go to this workout and try to knock it out. And I think I'm still maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks train, like kind of getting back into shape. So I go, I run well, I think I ran better than I had ran in my pro day. And this is when I kind of figured out, I'm starting to get my shoes on. I'm starting to warm up for position drills. And the GM, the head coach, the position coach, and the scout are standing over me. And so I'm thinking to myself, well, maybe I'm a lot better than I think. Maybe I'll be in a situation better than I thought I would be, because of just the added sense of attention. And I do come from a pretty good football pedigree just in my mental makeup, I think. So that was one thing I think I hung my hat on. and just made sure to try and keep my mind right.
Yeah, that's the thing I learned when I was working out with the guys, the combine guy, and we had guys from Penn State, Clemson, I mean, we had some of the top dudes who, but at the end of the day, I realized, like I said, the thing I learned was they're just 20 to 23-year-old kids, guys, that are still finding themselves, as a man, as a football player. Like the amount of insecurity at that age is fucking insane.
Through the roof. When
Dude.
you think about your 21-year-old self, you're like, I was a piece of SH, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or I was, opposite on the spectrum. And just depending on who you were and like how you carried that gave a vibe to coaches.
Exactly. No, I mean, like,
You know what I'm
that's
saying?
my thing now. I'm at 30. I ended up getting benched when I was at North Dakota. I won the job as a true sophomore out there. And like, looking back now, I was not mature enough to be in that position. Like, I could ball and I was smart and I knew, but from a leadership perspective, I'm like, damn, I look at my 30-year-old self now. I'm like, I wish I could go back right now and be in that role, because I'm exactly what they were looking for. And so,
Yeah,
like, the amount of maturity that it takes, that I don't think just the casual person who's never really been in that situation can
man.
really understand. And then, you compound it with, like, hey, if you run a 4.45 or a 4.55, it could mean the difference of $2 million. Like,
Man,
and
listen.
your family being good forever versus you having to just go work a normal job and like not help. Like, dude, that I can't, like I said, I've never been in that thing. I've just seen it from the outside, and that shit is crazy.
A different animal, man. I think and it's built on guys being in shape. Like if you're not in shape, you're not going to run well. You're going to lose, or you're not going to work out well. You're going to lose a solid chunk of money. And I, I, I knew if I could get in there and just take my reps, I knew I
Right.
could just build. I can build. Like I can get better. I know I can get better. And that was my biggest thing is I may not thrill you when I work out. You may watch me and be like, oh, he's got some gifts and some natural ability, but like I can play football. And that's what I had to hang my hat on. I can catch this slant, run this corner over and stretch and get 8 yards instead of getting 3 yards because like, I'm saying, I understand the game of football and how it works. And that for me was like what I needed to hang my hat on.
Yeah. So no, just like take me through draft day with, I don't know what the projections were. You end up going 6th round. How, just take me through that.
Man, so just that whole process of being drafted, you're gonna watch the first round. So my mental was like, even if I don't go in the first round or the first day, I need to watch and figure out why some of these guys are going ahead of me and what some of these guys see, because I'm that into critiquing my position and my art and my craft. I had a party the day before, so I had a bunch of family come the day before. We went to Wingers and chopped it up and ate because I didn't know if I was going to go first day, second day, wherever I do go, if I don't get drafted. And I had to be okay with not being drafted, and that drove me
Okay.
because I knew that there wasn't that many dudes who were better than me in my draft. And man, you're sitting there and you're looking at your phone. You're staring at your phone. It's like waiting for that call from that girl. It's nerve wracking. You're like, man, come on, hurry up and give me a call. And so you watch, first day goes by. Well, he went in the first 30 picks and he did what? He's not better than, and then you just say to yourself, like, all right, well, it's a crapshoot. You don't really understand it's a crapshoot, but it's a crapshoot.
Yeah.
And then you keep seeing these names come off the board and you're like, are you fucking kidding me? Excuse my language. And it gets to the point where throw my phone at the wall. I leave the house. I have to go on a walk because I know when I get frustrated, I'm not worth a nickel. I'm just built with frustration and anger. And I just needed some time to comprehend, like, okay, if I don't get drafted, now what's plan B? Because that was my first thought. If I don't get drafted, what's plan B? I immediately thought to plan B. And so I said, you know what? Let me go back. So I grab my phone. I'm not even watching the draft at this time. I go for another walk. Like a coach from St. Louis calls me. And they're like, hey, are you by your phone? I'm like, what the do you mean am I by my phone? You know
what else do you think I'm doing?
You know what day it is? Like, come on, man. And then the Philadelphia team. And so I go back inside eventually. I'm like, well, shit. If this guy calls, then and I'm thinking I'm gonna go to Seattle the whole time because they needed a receiver, but they took one in the third round. And so now I'm watching rounds go by, and I'm like, all right.
Do you still remember who?
Man, Darius Hayward-Bay went first.
Okay. I was going to say, like, I know as a competitor, like I'm probably in, you know, like I know how you are. And
it gets cloudy around the third, fourth, and fifth round.
Yeah,
but
right.
Because a lot, I stopped watching. But I know Darius Hayward-Bay went first, Crabtree,
Okay.
Jeremy Maclin, Percy Harvin, Hakeem Nicks, Brian Rubisky, Muhammad Massaquoi, Mike Wallace. There's a kid named Dominique Edison. I think Julian Edelman's in my draft.
Okay.
I think we're both either 6 or 7. He's something like that.
But this is like a thing that people don't understand, like the competitive nature of like, I will remember weird.
Like there's guys, and I'm not saying these guys aren't worthy football players. That's not what I'm saying.
Totally.
You just see the given opportunity and you know how you physically and mentally compare. Like,
no, and literally what is this, 8 years later, 9 years later, that like these names are ingrained in our, that you probably haven't, it's not like you're thinking about this in everyday life, but like those names are just up there. And that's like the sign of competition at its finest, you know?
You see these names and you start to match. You're like, all right, well, this dude didn't even, and then you start saying to yourself, like, just wait.
Yeah.
And then it's just wait. I mean, you have to literally use it as fuel. And it's a different animal. Like it's seeing all these guys go ahead of you. It puts things in perspective. And I got the call. My uncle was at the house. I got the call. They ask you, you been in any trouble and all the rest of that. And Andy Reid hops on the phone. He's like, hey man, you all right? You still there? He's like, we were going to take you a lot earlier. And we knew, but we had moved up to take Maclin.
Okay. I
was shit out of luck at that point. And he was an explosive wide receiver, better slated to go higher. He had a better career than I had. I just knew, like, yeah, he can play. Like, I can be on the field as well.
Right.
And that's not knock on Mac, because I think Mac's a hell of a football player. But it was shocking to me just the difference in how long this dude goes in the first round, and I have to wait till the 6th round, and I'm like, holy shit. And that was a lot to deal with mentally. But I was like, now I got my shot.
Right.
Now I got my shot.
And so then, because Philly, you were only there for how long?
To the trade deadline.
Okay.
And man, it's work. Work. I didn't understand what the amount of work, like, because I'm coming from a pretty big school in the sense of playing Pac-10 football, and I didn't understand that it requires another notch.
Yeah, what's like, how would you compare? Like, what's the main difference? Speed
of a lineman changed the game. The those 5 techniques, those outside backers, those guys who are those tweeners, but freaky. They change the game because of what they can do to in the pass rush. So I had to get adjusted. Like I knew I'd be fine with just understanding a corner who was faster than me or was bigger than me or had better feet than like I knew I could break him down in the aspect of my technical abilities, but being faster. You have to operate faster because of the guys inside. They operate even faster.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and your life's on the line even a little bit more with the D line chasing you down on a screen. And I mean, what about like playbook wise? How was the transition from Wazoo to that?
So I think it was a bit of an extreme shock in terms of the verbiage. They can load up a simple play with they can call a slot formation 2 different things, add a word to it in a tag, and the protection sounds funny, and then you're lost.
Right.
And then you have to understand that there's a concept and there's a tag within the concept. In green right slot west, like whoa. Then you add 300 jet, and then you add the concept, and then you add the tag, and you're like, and that's why like sometimes you see like the John Gruden clip, and he's talking to I forget what quarterback he's talking to, and it's a mouthful. And there's times where I knew that I needed to study, and I would just lock myself in a room. And so my training camp and my OTAs, I would lock myself in the room. Like I knew I was gonna mess up, but I knew when it came game time, I was gonna do good because I knew what kind of like preparation level. I knew that I was pretty good for football. Like I may not be the greatest preparer for a test in school or a quiz, but when it came to football, I knew how to prepare.
Yeah, right. And then how different was it, like verbiage and system, like when you went from Philly to St. Louis to Miami to New England? Was it by the time you get to New England, are you repeating things? How similar is everything, or different?
So this is why I think we need to challenge high school kids.
Yeah.
Because if I would have been challenged, I feel like in high school, and I'm not saying my high school coaches didn't challenge me mentally. What I'm saying is from a professional standpoint, there's trees.
Yeah.
These guys sprinkle down to another set of branches that sprinkle down to another set of branches. So when you hear West Coast and when you hear the number digit system, it was new when it was introduced to me, but I'm like, all right, be able to be multiple in your mind and mold yourself to freely open and understand. So I challenged myself my senior year of college to now take myself from just a split end. So I was an X receiver, go stick me in the boundary. I'm going to go win 9 out of 10 times, probably 10 out of 10 times. And a couple of those might be touchdowns. Yeah. That was who I was, one-on-one matchups, posts and stuff like that. I had to figure out, now I had to go be the Z. Now I had to go, okay, now let's go learn zebra. Zebra's the slot. Okay, now the personnel's changed. Okay, now you slide back to Z. So that stuff was a nuance. Like if you don't speak the code in the language, you're not going to make it.
Yeah. And now you're having to learn the whole picture and not just, this one little segment, as a quarterback and OC and guy, I love that whole side of it. And I know it sounds like you do now also.
I grew to love it because I understood that this was a bridge and a gateway between relationships with coaches. And I couldn't go talk to a coach if I couldn't go talk about what he needed me to do. And so like, I understood how to get open. I understood that, like, that was what I was good at. And
I can run a slant. I got that, I'm good. Yeah.
Yeah. I like, tell me, but then you add the factors of the verbiage and it was a lot different. It took me. So here's what people don't tell you. You need to forget everything you know in terms of verbiage, and you need to be open to being a sponge, because your first 3 months, it's you're looking at chicken scratch. And if you don't understand that, then you're not going to understand what's required of you, and like how some things mean opposite, and this motion is different. Like, hey, like Zach and Zoe are the same motion, but two different guys call it different things, and then you might align different because of a Zach motion or because of a run, and you're a support. Like that was the nuances that I had to. And so I was a little bit bigger receiver. So I blocked, like I'll go block the safety. Like I go block LaRon Landry's, and I go block the bigger dudes who were the force guys. So then you start to get in the specifics of who you are as a football player. And that was telling. And I think about my second or third year, I kind of understood like, hey, I have to be open to being all of these dudes. Because if you're not, they'll box you in and you'll become a very systematic guy.
Yeah, right. No, I mean, that's the blessing and the curse of my college career was in the 4 years that I was eligible and played, I played in 4 different offenses from
So you get it.
JUCO, 1 season. Well, actually, I guess I was there 2 because I gray shirted my first year. And we were spread like super simple, like, ran like 6 plays.
Yep.
Then North Dakota, we were like pro style, kind of multiple with not as much verbiage as the league, but it got a little wild occasionally. Yep. And the worst was having to do a signal system to get to get that verbiage in. Yeah. Then I go New Haven the first year with the first coaching staff is like completely multiple. At times it was like, it felt like he was like, okay, I like this play in Madden. We're going to figure out a way to run this, and then my senior year finished up like pretty much spread the same as I started. And so just that idea of like, okay, we got to learn, like you said, it might be Zap, it might be Zach, it might be Zoe, it might be, Z across, it could be whatever. And then because, a thing I love with it. And now that I'm living out in Europe that I've been learning just actual real languages, whether it be Portuguese, Spanish, I'm trying to get my Finnish game up, but people don't understand that football is a language of it's not, we use some English words, but it's not English, and people will ask out here like, well, how's the language barrier and stuff like that? Like, bro, this year in Czech Republic, 4 of my 5 O linemen didn't speak English. And so like, while that's tough, like they just learned that, Zulu is zone left and Zorro is zone right. And, we're speaking the same language. Like, yeah, I can't ask them how they're doing and what their families, all that stuff. But from football, they can see it. And then this means this, and this translates to this. And so like, I'm a nerd when it comes to all of that kind of stuff. Yeah. So, I was excited to get to talk to you with like, from Philly, St. Louis, Miami, New England, Wazoo, couple staffs with Washington State. Like it just makes your brain work. And like a real language or a real language, actual verbal language, the more you learn, the easier it is to learn. And so by that 4th one, you're like, oh yeah. And so now I'm having the challenge because I've been QBOC my pretty much the entire career out here, running essentially my own offense, or if I come to a new team, I'll kind of tweak their verbiage to fit mine or use their, we do it. But here I'm just QB, and so I'm having to learn their system, which is, we almost run the identical offense, same offense, but just, instead of Zulu and Zorro, it's, well, I'm not going to give out what our calls are, like in case I know someone's going to be watching this one, but it's completely different. And, but that call we use for zone in my old offense was a play action call, and so like, just, I'm glad the thing I've just taken from you right there was like, I need to just wipe it clean and, go back to the drawing board and just be a sponge with the sense of, I can't be, oh, well, in my old offense, it meant this. And, and this, and we used to say, no, okay,
Yeah.
that shit don't matter. We're in it now,
It doesn't matter. And so my first year, it was built on the West Coast,
Okay.
like West Coast system.
With
And
Andy Reid.
with Andy Reid. And
Yeah.
so I went to Pat Shermer, who was a little bit of a West Coast coach as well. And we got there. And so like I was okay. I was functional for 2 years. I just had to learn how the NFL terms and like the nuances of whatnot. Then my third year, I get Josh McDaniels.
Okay.
That was different.
How so?
Just the words in itself, and nothing makes sense, but in his mind it does. And it's not that his mind it doesn't make sense, it's just different than I've ever heard. So like you could say I write, his is 0.
Oh, whoa.
So it's crazy in the sense of like you get a call, so 0 flood flank flip ride, you know what I'm saying? And there's different nuances, and I'm like, you just called a play action pass, but you use 7 words. You used a motion and you didn't tell this guy that he was motioning, but he's supposed to know. And then, you know what I'm saying? And so it was like, holy shit. So I got 1 year with that, tried to learn it as best as I could.
And wait, sorry, what year was it? Where was that at? Because you also got McDaniels in New England at the end, or no?
Yeah, I got Josh at McDaniels in New England in the end. So that was 2011. So my third year. And then my fourth year, I got Schottenheimer.
Oh, gosh.
So he's in Seattle now. So like, I've had a shit ton of offensive coordinators. And then my first year in Miami, I had Mike Sherman.
Okay.
In my second year, I had Bill Lazor. He's at the Bengals right now. And then my last year, I had Josh, who's still in New England. So like me, football, the mental aspect was like, you have to walk into a building and you have to approach it as if you know nothing. Then you have to build each and every day and understand the nuances of each coach and what they like to do. And it was mind-blowing at first. And then I figured out, okay, I need extra time to study. I have to place myself in a situation that makes me uncomfortable, and I may have to spend 3 hours on it. It may take time, but I need to learn it.
Would you say that's like the key for why you stayed in the league longer than others, or because what the average is like 3 years? And so what do you feel like the key is for staying in the league longer than that?
Number one, they don't tell you is your body. Take care of your body. Your body is your moneymaker. If your body's not in tune, you won't make it. And that was something for me I had to learn to develop. You don't unless you have a parent or a coach that you're extremely close with, you won't know how to prepare for an NFL season. Like I can tell you, what you need to put in, what you need to do, but then there's another level of preseason that kicks up, and then there's another level of regular season that kicks up, and then there's another level of playoff football that kicks up, and those are all different areas and sections that you would have to prepare for. And so like bye weeks, I would come home and I'd be like, I can't take this week off. So I'm going to Tim Manson on my bye week. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And I'm preparing, and Tim's phenomenal. He's a scientist, and he's preparing you physically. He's also going to challenge your mental. And so that was what I needed to stay sharp. And it just wasn't more than just going to run. Like I had to do some of the little muscle exercises to be able to last and get through a 20-week season. And that in itself is a challenge. Once I think you can do that, if you can physically take care of your body, the other stuff's easy.
Okay.
Because it starts with yourself. Like, if you don't tune your legs in to being able to run for an hour, like you got to run for an hour, dude. Like yeah. I don't care how you break it down. Tom Brady sat in the meeting room. He told all the other positions to leave and the coaches and said, if you guys can't run, I won't throw it to you.
Damn.
He was like, you have to be in shape. If you don't come if you're not in shape. So that's the conversation I have with kids now. Like, I'll know how serious you are about learning this shit if you can take care and hone in on your body. If you make your body and mind a priority.
Right. No, man,
Different level.
that's I mean, and when you hear it from Tom, it's just like, oh, the voice of all reason, you know.
What more do you have to say? And this is and I bounce back and forth, but like I watched this dude run hills and then get on bungees and take drops for like 35 minutes straight. And I'm talking like 3-step, 5-step, 7-step play action, and he's doing it. And I'm like, he's a machine, but he knows that, hey, I have to be able to do this for this amount of time.
Right.
And I think the number one key is just mental preparation with your body, like keeping those two in tune and intact.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing I always wonder about, because you just see the guy that'll have a year, one good year or 2 good years, and then it's like, where'd he go? And it's, I mean, like you said, a 20-week season is literally 5 months straight, and that's not including preseason.
Not including preseason.
I mean, that's insane. My one question before we jump out of like that I had with the playbook stuff, what was your favorite play or favorite route that was like you heard that one called, and that it was like ding ding ding, like let's rock?
We're getting a little into like what I want to be, or what, like I love Kyle Shanahan shit. I love true zone scheme, play action pass. Let's make a read on that third level on that safety, and let's make him decide. All right, if you're going to stay flat-footed or you're going to challenge the run, we're going to throw it behind you, and we're going to throw it long. If you're going to stay deep in thirds or stay over the top, I'm going to sit it at 16 to 18 yards, and I'm going to catch this stem action curl, and it's going to be a first down. And so that was like, when I heard read on, I was like, it's my shit.
And so Reed was saying if safety's flat-footed, you're going post over his head, and if not, okay.
Yep. There it is.
I just always love to hear, because I have my certain ones that it's like you get the call in and it's like,
you get a little excited.
Let's rock.
Like, all right, this is what I've been waiting for this. And Andre Johnson was one of my favorite players. Just growing up, even in, like when he was at Miami and then getting to the league, and I'm like, and they ran it with him a shit ton, and I was like, well, shit. Like I think I can get in there and run a good curl, run a deep curl, and stop on a dime and expect the ball on time. Like that's something I could do. And then everyone likes running posts for the most part, so that was probably my favorite instance.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. And then from like a QB chemistry kind of thing, again, like playing in a bunch of different systems, also played with a bunch of different dudes. Who'd you feel you had like the best connection with?
I played with Sam for 3 years.
Okay.
So I'm going to naturally say I had one of my more productive years with Sam. It was through a very catchable ball. Great spots. He understood timing. He could push the pocket a little bit, and he knew when he had to fit it into a certain window, and you could expect that. As far as that goes, Tom would be number one, I believe, on everyone's list, because of his longevity and the continued just trust that he plays with, like the speed he plays with back there. I remember the first time we went to go throw in the bubble, and I was like, I snap out of the balls there. Like he's not waiting. He's throwing this shit before. And so I thought that was really, really, really cool, because that's what you want. Or like, get me the ball when I'm open.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Don't jack it around. And I understand that, sometimes pressure changes things, but like I saw, and the craziest thing, and I think it boils down to trust. And the throw wasn't even to me. We're watching film, and Sam throws a 20-yard curl with dude in his face, and he lets it go before before Brandon Lloyd even turned around. And I was like, that's that shit. Like
Yeah.
that's the shit, dude. And you just knew he's like, I have to get the ball out, but I trust you. And so he's loading up to throw it, and the ball's out of his hands, and you're not even bursting out of your shit. That's the stuff you really want. And top two would be Sam and Tom.
Okay. And then, I mean, how much like off the field stuff are you guys doing? Like, and how much does that benefit?
I don't think I did it enough with guys.
Okay.
I probably been in guys' hip pockets a lot more, because that chemistry is what carries guys. Like you see Julian Edelman and Tom Brady, and they're making it work in late season, right? And you're like,
Yeah.
holy shit. Like they're still doing this as if it's the summertime. And you get together maybe 2 or 3 times during the year, during the course of the off season. And now they kind of keep you there to some degree, and you guys work together. But I mean, it was pretty normal for like 2 or 3 times you guys go meet up and fly and go work out together.
Okay. Gotcha. And then, I mean, what?
And I think that should be a weekly thing. But by the way, like at least once a week. I'm sorry, you guys need to sit down and you need to talk, and you need to talk about spots. You need to talk about feel, and then you need to go throw. And if you can just carry that throughout the off season, at least once a week, you get to the scheduled stuff, and you're like, all right, we did this. I know what to do. It's not. I don't need to ask you a question versus press. We've already ran through this scenario.
Yeah, no doubt. That's like, I mean, over the years, my funniest little story with like quarterback receiver connection, and it's ironic, it's like from high school, but me and like, and in a way it makes sense, because in high school, like those are your boys, and so you are hanging out with them the most off the field, probably out of anywhere I've been. Yeah, without a doubt. JUCO also, but high school, like, no question. And me and my one homie Brennan, we would run back shoulder fades, just practicing it. We saw it on TV, like it wasn't in the offense, but we just we liked practicing it, from the 5, from the 10, back shoulder. And then we get into the quarterfinals against Bothell, and it's like tie game or something, fourth quarter, come to the sideline, and coach is like, and we're on the 5-yard line, 3rd and goal. He's like, hey, what do you think about the back shoulder to Miller? Like I said, it's not even in the playbook. And I'm like, what do you think about the back shoulder to Miller? Like, what? And he's like, you guys hit it every single time. And I was like, all right. And I come in the huddle and like call the play, and I have to tell as we break it, I'm like, Miller, back shoulder. And he looked at me like, we're really doing this? And it like all the, and that was, week 10 or 11 or whatever. It's like the entire 3 months before had led up to that one moment, and you never knew it was going to be there. And so that's the thing I've been trying to really work with guys out here. And I'm excited, this team in Finland, like I have some dudes who like, they want to work, and they're like, yo, Saturday, what are you doing? Saturday? Okay, we're out there, and
once a week. That's it.
Exactly. To your point, the dude, my guy Tino out here was like, he's like, hey, I just need to run. I need my legs in shape. And so like hearing you say this, I know he'll probably check it, and he's like, I know I'm right, like.
Yeah, absolutely. I need to give Alex Brink his flowers too. He was pretty, and just we were together, so I kind of knew, and I watched the guy who was ahead of me, who was like 1,000-yard receiver, Jason Hill. And then I was just like, well, I can emulate that and kind of be in these same spots, and I can use some of my athleticism. But Brink was good too. He was really good.
Cool. Yeah. And staying on this kind of thing, but like, who's been incredibly influential in your life that has made you the person you are, and things like that?
I would say my mom's I'm a big advocate of my mom, just because she raised me, and she did whatever she needed to do to take care of me and provide and an opportunity. And she did a fantastic job. And There was never anything that, we went without. If we wanted it, she was going to bust her ass to get it. And she's a hero of mine and someone that I look up to. And she's in that same conversation of Muhammad Ali, Michael Jordan, and my mom. And those are the superheroes in my world.
That's dope. And what about, like, do you have a time you remember, like, a friend like really stepping up for you, or like something that sticks out in your mind as like a homie really stepping up for you?
Let's see. Someone who has stepped up for me. I would say, and it was a good reminder. I had this thing, so when I scored touchdowns, and I would just unstrap my chin strap and run off the field. And it was a habit, just because one, I was just kind of who I was, just doing my work, get off the field, and Mike Pouncey grabbed me and was like, "Hey man, you need to celebrate with your teammates." And so my mind, I was like, I think I scored, was playing for Miami. I scored, getting ready to run off the field, and I stopped. And I was like, it's good to feel that want of togetherness. And that's what I kind of hung on. And I was it's always going to stick out for me, and in a situation, because you want to be a part of that, and you want to make everybody feel good.
Yeah, and celebrations now are becoming like,
Mm-hmm.
the no fun league is like slowly becoming a little more fun, and like they're
Yeah.
encouraging that, and the
Yeah.
Seahawks are doing it. And I mean,
Yeah.
I've grown up as kind of the old school guy, probably more similar of like, you score, whether you give it to the ref or just drop it, and let's like get back to business. But I
Yep.
can feel myself like slowly
Yeah.
changing with, like, especially with some like younger teammates now. I'm like, and some TikTok dances and shit. I'm like, yo, what are we doing when we score now? And like, because that it's we're playing a kid's game, and
Yeah.
it's like, let's celebrate, and that shit can be contagious and kind of piss off the other team in the same sense that, no, that's, I'm glad you said the reiteration of like celebrating with the team.
Yeah. What I really like now is they put that video screen
Yeah.
up. Everyone can go celebrate. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it gives, especially the defense now. I mean, they're
Yeah.
using that to their advantage.
As they should. As they should.
Yeah, no doubt.
Mhm.
Now kind of moving, although actually I was thinking, how did the thought process come with retiring, and like what was the ultimate, was there a day, a instance that was like, yo, it's time, or was it a slow burn, or how'd that come about?
Got two stories in this. First story is my very last practice in St. Louis. This is when I knew the end would come faster than I wanted it to.
Okay.
And it's not a negative thing. You hear your body and you understand your body needs stuff.
Yeah.
And you're like, all right. And that stuff is not football. That's not it. It's sport. It will destroy your body. And it was my last day. We were practicing. I think it was our last day. We were practicing the bubble. And I was like, I feel old. Like year 4, I've been busting my ass, trying to make it happen. I was like, man, I feel old. And then and that's so when I kind of figured like, man, this thing is going to end sooner than I want it to. And then my last year in my New England, I tore my knee, tore my ACL. I kind of knew, I was like, well, I'm going to be 29. I'm kind of, or 28, 29. I'm on the fence just about, like, my production last year wasn't great. So I had to understand that retirement might be forced. It might not be something that I fade off into. And I took that year to just kind of get healthy and train and get my body right. And I didn't get any call. I got a call from Atlanta to go work out right after my, like, maybe about, it was before 9 months. It was like right around the 9-month mark, 10-month mark. I got a call to go work out. I wasn't in shape, but I kind of knew. I was like, all right, well, that might be it. Like, I did what I could do. Like, now no one's calling. I got to be okay with the situation that I can walk away from it. and I just train and keep my mind right, my body right. But I knew after that last one in New England, I knew it might be the end was here.
So yeah, you were mentally prepared for it. It sounds
Yeah.
like. And how much throughout the career are guys, and yourself included, like thinking about that next career or investments or like money management, the financial side of things?
The really smart dudes start to build a foundation for it and a base layer for it. So like these guys might have a foundation and like something that they're into. They might go off and start a business or like a joint venture, or they might simply, dabble in other things when they're not actually playing football. And I think that's like your best case and a good sign that you're ready to kind of start another path and another career way. I would say about 25% of the guys, 25 to 40% mentally prepare for a second career.
Okay.
I would say the other half don't.
How were you in that? Were you in that range, or where were you?
So I've always wanted to be a teacher.
Oh,
So my uncle, my uncle's name is Vaughn. He went to Stanford. He played football, and like I kind of liked his love for life was exciting. Like his love to teach science, and like I do enjoy history in that sense. So my gig will be teaching history at some point in life. I don't know when. I don't know what version, but I think I would, do a course that of stuff that I like and care about. But I didn't want to coach. Coaching wasn't number one on my list. I'm really into like sneakers and you know
I know you got the drip. I see it. I see it.
I like clothes. I like clothes. I wouldn't say I'm into fashion because fashion is forever evolving, and I'm not here to wear some of the stuff that these guys wear, but I do enjoy certain trends and certain looks. And like I said, Michael Jordan's always been one of my icons, and he kind of created a trend, and that's kind of the trend I was into. And so like I wanted to maybe do something in footwear, something with clothes, but my biggest um I like to help kids. And so like school wise, I was like, man, I thought about, man, think about the experiences you had in school, and not all of them are great. What if I got to have a really cool teacher who had a really cool background, and he was a good positive example? And I kind of just hopefully one day see myself in that chair. I don't know when it's going to be, but I wanted to be close to the game when I finished. So I had to figure out, how do I stay close? Do I
Mhm.
coach? Do I get involved with the program? And if I coach, how invested am I? And then like if you're gonna do it, you got to really be invested in it. So that was a process for myself, and like just building that love for the game again, because I would say my career ended somewhat abruptly, like with an injury, and so I felt like mentally I had a lot more in the tank. But physically, if you can't do it, like then you have to find another outlet. And it took me 2 years to really find the love for coaching. Like I would say, it took me 2 years, and then that third year, you work with certain individuals and players that spark your love for the game, and that was big for me. And so now I got a little bit of it, and I want to continue to grow and become a better coach.
Completely. You hit it on the head with I've always enjoyed the coaching aspect, but more so like the OC of like the X's and O's, and
Yeah.
like, yeah, I mean, I guess now that I'm getting older, it's evolving into like affecting someone's life. And you said you hit it on the head. Is in Spain, I was coaching the flag team out there, and I had this like 13-year-old girl QB who could sling it, dude. And
Yeah.
like she was like the ultimate quarterback personality of like holding everybody accountable, getting mad at people, like when
Yeah.
they needed to. And then in
Yeah.
check, I had another kid that was like growing 13, 14, that, I mean, worked his ass off and just so coachable.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like through those, and I guess, you know, a kid out in Florida that I was working with too, that those have just like bred this like, okay, like you can really impact somebody, you know, and
Man,
that's like a beautiful thing that it's, yeah, like they're going to be a better quarterback, but I hope, you know, as you said, you're using football as a vehicle to teach life lessons, essentially, that
man,
they'll
for
look
real.
back in 10 years like, damn, like Joey said something about this, but really he was talking about life, not
Yeah.
QB, you know?
Yeah, not quarterback. You know, you got to talk about like just attacking things head on, and
Yeah.
people don't look at it as a sport, as a vehicle to teach, but it's absolutely in each element of life. Like you can take something from it.
Yeah, and so you hit on a couple things that I wanted to question about, of like, you know, I like, you know, I see on IG the sneaker game, and I'm I'm not too into it anymore. I used to be for a while, but I have a big appreciation for it. But I fuck with like just your style in the sense of like, you know, there's some camo in there, some just like
Yeah.
denim, you know, like I like my vintage kind of,
Yeah.
I think I try and throw some stuff together as, you know, whether it be thrift shopping or whatever, and, you know, finding that a way to
Absolutely.
be unique, you know? And
There it
so
is.
like obviously you like sneakers, but out of sneakers, what's your favorite? Is it jackets? Like I'm a jacket
Mhm.
guy, you know, like what's your other thing that you got too many of?
Oh man, I got a shit ton of jackets. And you add that element. One, we're from a place where it rains and it gets cold, so it's like a part of what you do. Like you leave the house and your mom's gonna ask you if it's 75 out. She's still gonna say, "Did you grab your jacket?"
Right. Right.
And that's of how you develop it in the sense of, okay, I need to have a jacket for this. I need to have a jacket for that. I need to have a jacket for this. I need to have shoes for that. And
Yeah.
it's just built. And I would say, man, I'm big on sneakers. So like number one, I'm gonna say sneakers. Like
Yeah.
to me, changes the conversation of what you have going on. Like you see someone's individual style within sneakers, and you're like, oh, okay, all right. So you like Penny Hardaway. You understand that era of basketball. Oh, you know who Jason Kidd is. Oh, you have some Iversons on. Oh, okay. You were during the Reebok era. So like
Yes.
that just
Those
sets.
half zips, bro. I'm
Come on
still
now.
like, I can't find them, but I want a pair of the black and gray half
Gosh.
zip. Like I will fork out some bread for some of those, you know?
Yeah. Man, and like Iverson was such a trendsetter during our time. So like you see it and you're like, man, I want to wear what he's wearing. And
Yeah.
so I like hats.
Mm,
Hats are really underestimated. You know, they can change the element of your outfit. And just being able to, I could. The cool thing I think, like growing up, is what kind of hats there were out,
mm.
and we didn't have a chance to really get the hats that the baseball players wore.
True.
So like, it was different. Like, oh, a snapback's cool, but I'm wearing this fitted joint and that King Griffey has on, and it's backwards.
Yeah.
So now it's kind of like, all right, so I'm wearing what the players are wearing.
And so on sneakers, I'm gonna have to give you the tough question of like, if you had to narrow it down to, I'll give you three pairs or two pair, you know, like I was gonna say one, but I know that's probably impossible.
I can do one, I can do two, I can do three. So
Okay,
number
yeah.
one,
So you give me the top three then.
if I'm stranded on an island
Yeah.
and I had to grab one pair, I'm gonna grab the Air Jordan 3s, just the black
Okay.
cement. I think it's a shoe that is recognizable, um, and one that kind of took off the Jordan, I guess, brand. The Jordan 1 would be the second one, just the
Okay.
black and red one. Iconic. Like you see that your parents see that silhouette of sneaker and know, because they remember the craze for the most part. Like if your parents were into that.
Yeah,
Um,
it's timeless.
it's timeless. I mean, it looks like a dunk. It looks like an Air Force, but like the actual Jordan 1 high top, the black and red, just is to me changed the element of oh, look at what he has on his feet.
Mm.
And I think the last one would be the Jordan 4s. I'm a Jordan 4. I just in the realm of Jordan because of that. That's what I'm gonna pick for the most part.
Yeah.
Um,
What about non-Jordan? Anything non-Jordan?
I mean, we can go the Nike realm. We can go the Adidas realm. I'm a I'm a big guy.
How many pairs do you have? That's the question.
I think I stopped counting around like 400.
Jesus
Yeah.
Christ.
Yeah. I've been trying to give mine away too, like because I know I have too many. So like
What size are you? You got some 12s out there or what?
well, so I got you,
All
man.
right, throw some away, your boy.
No,
Next time I'm back, man.
just go live. I got you. I got you.
That's
But
fun.
yeah,
What do you think about like the like Cam Newton, Russell Westbrook, like those guys that like really are
challenge. Yeah.
kind of challenging, pushing the boundaries, whatever you want to call it.
Now I am all for individualism.
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't get me wrong. That's what sets you apart. And at times, I think it's important to remember, like, when you're wearing clothes, like, who are you? Like,
Yeah.
that's why I like when Russ wears the Crip outfit of Dickies, and I'm like, you can't fake that because that's who that dude is. Now there's times where these guys wear stuff and it challenges the norm of like he might have a shirt with his stuff out, his stomach out, and you're like, not for me.
Yeah.
Not saying it looks a certain way, but it's just not for me. Now you can always wear a suit and tie and look good. For the most part, you can always wear a suit and tie and look good. I think if people understand that and take the business approach to things, you can always look good. I am gonna wear cargos, a vintage T-shirt, a vest, a jacket, a hat, some Jordans or some Air Forces, and that's what I am. That's what I'm gonna be.
Easy.
Maybe
Yeah, that's the uniform per se.
That's the uniform. Maybe a hoodie, but that's for the most part. That's who I'm gonna be, and that's what I'm gonna wear.
Word. Yeah, no, I wanted to touch on that subject because I know you're into it, and like I said, I'm into it with my own little avenue, and so it's always fun to hear what other people think about it. And the other thing, kind of switching gears that you touched on with your uncle, and you said like you just noticed with him, like he just had the appreciation for living or life. I forget exactly how you said it. And this is the Living for a Living podcast, and so a thing I always kind of like to ask guys in some way or another is like, in your own words, like what's your definition of living, or like how do you see that?
Man, leave it better than when you found it. I think that's one creed. If you're gonna do something, make sure you go balls to the wall. Make sure you take that avenue. And then number 3, I think it's serving. You gotta learn to serve. Like that's hard. It's hard. It's easy to serve when everything's going your right and going your way. It's not easy to serve when you got a couple things stacked up against you and you're not appreciated in X, Y, and Z. And for me, like I got to be better about that. But I'm understanding like there's a version of coaching that goes with serving, and you have to mash those together because I can't lead young men if I can't, like, I got to be able to serve them, and they got to be able to understand and dissect how to serve.
I love it. Kind of on that line, like what inspires you the most and kind of makes you feel like you're your best self?
Oh man.
I
What
totally
makes
switched the subjects on. We went from fat now to we're getting a little more philosophical with it.
We're getting a little philosophical. My best version of myself. I'm outgoing. I like to be expressive.
Mm-hmm.
What I don't care for is someone who puts limitations on you. And so, like, I think people need to be unapologetically them in every sense of the word, because if you're not, you're going to close off an area of you and you're not going to understand it, and it's going to drive you nuts. So like, I'll put it in perspective. People thought like because of my nature and how I carry myself, like they didn't think that I cared about football, but
Okay.
that's has nothing to do with how I care about the sport. My personality is in the sense of, man, it might not look like I give an fuck, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because I've kind of conditioned myself to try not to be too high, try not to be too low, try to be in the middle. But when I promise you and I tell you I'm balls to the wall and I might rip your face off, that's just how I function. You know what I'm saying? Because I come from those. I watched the Dennis Rodmans compete, the Scottie Pippens compete, and those are the guys that would just go balls to the wall, and the Michael Jordans, and those are like some of my iconic figures. And he played both ends of the floor, so why not be able to do everything in that sense? And so like I understand how that looks, and just because one guy looks a certain way, you can't question what he cares and what motivates him, because it's not always the same.
So, yeah, hell yeah. No, I mean my thing I love to live by, and I try and be an example of it, is like the whole "don't judge a book by its cover." You know,
Yeah.
my goal eventually at one point is to have like tattoos in a vest. You know, so
Yeah.
like no sleeves, no nothing. So you see
Yeah.
me in a t-shirt, you think like here's just this kind of clean, well, not clean cut at all, but you know what I mean, a non-tattoo, and then pull the shirt off and it's like, damn, like he's completely covered. And just that change in perception that you can give people that I really like. And finishing up here, you know, we're at that mark, and
Yeah.
looking towards the future, you know, and going forward in life, like what's something you're curious about and like want to dive into more?
Um, I need to understand. I want to understand communication better.
Okay.
There's when you're communicating and you're communicating at a high level, you need to make sure that you don't judge and that you are overly expressive in a positive, constructive way, and you need to not be too harsh. So I think I want to explore communication, whether it be nonverbals, verbals, and be better about how I relay message and information and how I receive information and messages.
I like that. And man, in our current time right now, that is, I think there's probably not a right or wrong answer to that question, but that is a definite one of the right answers, I think, because man, we're getting to a point where just the idea of communication is getting difficult at times. And that's a
Yeah.
thing I like to do with this, is just open the communication up of whether we're from the same state but we have different backgrounds, or we have the
Yep.
same backgrounds but we're from a completely different country, whatever it may be. Is like at the end of the day, like communication and a conversation ultimately leads to like maybe not perfect understanding,
Yeah.
but better understanding than what we started with. And
What we started with, and that's important because, like, we play football, and people don't think football requires verbal communication. Listen, the O linemen talk
oh
all game long, and if you and it's that's another piece of communication that I'm trying to learn. Like, what are these guys saying to each other? How are they saying it? And are they able to get it communicated in time? And it's fascinating.
yeah, no, for sure. Dude, I've had that same thing with like being OC out here, and like learning, having to step up the O line coaching game.
Mm-hmm.
And hey, what calls, what this, what that, and talking to old friends. And no, I mean, I know we keep going back to football, but that to me, it just shows like how incredibly useful football is in a real life scenario.
Come on now, using the game of football, and helping guys in life. Like, if you don't understand it, they go hand in hand, and it is something that people should use as a vehicle. And like, I understand that the challenges that football presents, but it's about being able to work with people. Like, and I said for the longest time, I wouldn't let my kid play football. And now I'm starting to come around and it be like, I view football as boxing
Yeah.
personally, because if you're not special, I'm sorry, there's a version of being special at something in football that can carry you. Same with boxing.
Uh-huh.
These are sports that are so specific in what you do, and if you don't specifically train for them, now I'm not saying that every sport, that's just my personal view, but like football and boxing, they take so much away from your body.
Yeah.
If you're not going to treat it as something that's important, then I think it's a waste.
That's a unique perspective that I haven't exactly heard, but that's a good way to say is like, I mean, it's going to risk your life damn near,
You
or
know what I'm
not
saying?
damn for sure. Like,
Absolutely. Like, I won't be able to walk probably when I'm 80, 90, or like I might have a version of like a bad, but I understand and I gain so much knowledge through it and what it means to actually work through, frustrations, or understand like how to communicate when I'm in a tight spot or a situation, and just being able to understand and how to lead and how to step back and watch somebody lead. Like, I think that sport's important.
without a doubt, man. You're preaching. I love it, man. I love it, bro. Well, I think let's wrap this one up. And man,
Yeah,
I'm grateful that we were able to get it going. And whether it
absolutely.
next time I'm back in the dub, which I have no clue when that will be,
Stay
I'd
out there, man. Stay
love to
out there.
link up. And bro, if you ever got a 1 year left,
Yep.
hit me up. We'll fly you. We'll get you out here for a second half of a season.
Oh man,
It's
I'm so old. I'm washed up.
it's much less demanding than it's not a 16-week season out here. No, I just I
I
had to
can
throw that
put it
out
up
there.
for 2-3 weeks.
Exactly, bro. No, so appreciate you, man, and I'm looking forward to the next time we connect.
I appreciate it, man. Hey, you're the man, Joey.
Appreciate you, BG. Next, much love, man.
Always.
Living for a living, baby. How you doing?
And it was the first podcast I've ever done where it wasn't a time limit issue, and
Yeah,
we got to address situation and aspects and philosophy and who you are at your center and what you want to be and what you want to project. Like, usually you don't get that, and I think that was why I had no problem. Like you said, hour. I was like, oh, this is easy. This is.
yeah. No, I
I
mean,
was like thinking, I might be 2 hours.
yeah, no, and that's the thing with like, I like not having the time limit, whether, as I said, I know I mean, shit, Rogan will go for fucking 4 hours at times. And
Yeah,
for me as a listener, 4 hours is too much,
too
but
much.
I get stoked when I see a 2 hour segment
Yeah,
that, especially when it's like, I mean, there's a lot of good stuff in there, like, and
yeah,
like inside stuff. And even, just so I'd eventually love for this shit to blow up, and I
yeah,
have a feeling it will. It's just more
yeah,
of putting in the time. But
yeah,
at the very least, it's like when we're 60 and we
yeah.
get to rewind back in time and see a conversation of what I'm thinking, what you're thinking at this day and age, like, that's like where it really becomes cool for me.
I think it's like, obviously we have different backgrounds and like we've went in different places, but like we've both seen shit to the point where I'm like, hey, I know I've seen some stuff. Here's what I've seen. Here's what functions. Here's what works. Here's what didn't work for me. And this is all like personal experience. And not everybody's the same. And so I'm kind of like, it's pretty cool because then I can tell people like, yeah, I remember being in a dorm with 5 other dudes, and each week they got a guy got let go, and I was the only guy in my dorm. Like, I like, no one's gonna care to appreciate that situation, but someone who comes from a similar background is like, damn, fam, I understand what that means.
For real.
And the sheer probability and numbers behind it, you're like, holy shit, like that's a hell of a grind.
Yeah, no doubt. And like, that's the the cool thing about podcasts in general, especially like the long form where it's completely, I mean, we could have probably gone another hour. I don't have another hour in the battery pack of my camera and shit, but like if you could, where it's like, if people want to take the time, well, one, it's like therapeutic for me in a way just to talk, but if people want to take the time, like, you listen to that, and like, it's not a 1 minute clip that you can make a judgment on myself or you. It's like, there's the full spectrum of things that at the end, like, someone can really know you better, which is cool, because like, we're getting so caught up in like the like clickbaity shit, that
people like, is what I say, like, people didn't think I liked football, like, because I was quiet sometimes. I didn't like, my personality might not have been overly expressive towards the actual sport, but it doesn't mean that I don't like football. It just means that I function different.
Yeah.
And people don't understand that makes an individual, like, he's one way when he's one thing, and then he has to put a mask on and he's a different guy.
Yes. No, for sure. That's been one of my things I've just been trying to do over the last few years, like, to that point, is like literally zero mask, and obviously you have to at times, especially like coaching kids, and like, you can't talk about the exact same shit around kids as the homies, but even just like the way is like, I'm trying to almost, whether I'm talking to my mom, a friend, whoever, like, it's me. And so there isn't that, like, because dude, then you do get that feeling of like you're almost an actor in your own life,
Well, I can't do TV. I
Yeah.
don't think I'd be good for TV. And like, I remember like going to college, my mom was like, man, why don't you do communications? I was like, yeah, I don't mind doing communications, but like, there's an element of being on TV that I can't fake the funk if I'm not feeling something. Like, that's just me as a human. Like, yeah, I can give you that bullshit answer, but I'm gonna be like, fuck, like, that's bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Like,
No,
like,
dude, a funny story with that is, in Poland, my second year, I was on House Hunters International, the like HGTV show, where like, you have three apartments that you're moved to a new city, you're looking for a new apartment. And so like, I did that. They're filming, like, I'm Joey, the football player in Poland, looking for an apartment. But like, everything you film, it's like you do at least 3 or 4 takes. And I remember watching it with my homie, and like, he's kind of laughing, and he's like, bro, you're a pretty good actor. And I'm like, what do you mean? And I was like, but I'm being me. He's like, yeah, but you're not, that's not you, like, there's still like, whether they use it. And I heard some other actor was like, the first scene is the only real one, or the first take. And then after that, it's acting. And so I was like, yeah, you're kind of like, I'm literally being myself, but at the same time, I'm not, so the TV, I get what you mean with that, for sure.
It requires a certain patience and that I have, but I don't really have.
Yeah. No, I feel it.
I'm not about to sit there and do 10 takes with you, but I'll coach the shit out of this kid and do 10 reps with him.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, because every rep's different.
Every rep's different, and help him with his patience and understanding and level of understanding, for sure. Like, that's just how I am.
Yeah, bro. No, that was good, man. I'm excited to watch this one back. But shit, dog, it's 10:20 out here. I'm gonna hop on and make a little wings and then call it a night.
Been real, bro.
Hey, appreciate you, brother. Until next time.
Anytime. Holla at you soon.
Yes, sir. Much love. Later, bro.